Everybody, and welcome to a Moo episode of Criterion Watch.
Criterion Watch, yes,
Film
there you go.
And it is my turn this time. Your old pal, the Moo Cow, and
Jonathan A. Moody.
And we are going to watch the 1995 Jim Jarmusch film, Dead Man.
Dead Man! I've never seen this. I know of it, and I know Jim Jarmusch. This isn't the one with Johnny Depp, right?
This is the one with Johnny Depp.
This is the one with Johnny Depp. All right.
Among others.
Awesome.
And it is a Western-ish. It's more... It's a very unusual Western. Most Westerns are not made like this. So, yeah, it's actually really, really well done movie. This is back when I really loved Johnny Depp before he got into all the Disney stuff. And I've always been a big fan of Jim Jarmusch.
Wait, are you blaming the Disney stuff on why you don't like him anymore?
It's part of it. But, you know, there's a lot of really good stuff, a lot of good people in there. And, yeah, it's a really cool film. And one of the most beautifully shot black and white movies you're going to see. So, there you go.
There you go.
All
right. We'll be back.
Yep. See you on the flip side.
Bye.
And we are back. So, ready to talk Dead Man?
I feel like I've been revitalized.
What did you think?
It's a good movie. Really good.
Yeah. It's a Western without really kind of being a Western. It's very interesting. You know, it doesn't do the normal kinds of, you know, narratives or tropes that a normal
Clichés.
Western does. Yeah. And, you know, in the commentary, Jim Jarmusch talks about... Yeah, he talks about trying to avoid those kind of cliches, and he does a very, very good job. And it almost feels, dare I say, a little Quentin Tarantino-ish in that, you know, rather than seeing the hitmen killing the guys and all that, they're talking about stuff, the kind of things that you know, a pair of hitmen might talk about, but you never see in movies. This is similar in that you've got these characters that are doing their things, but you're with them during the times that you generally are not with them in a standard film.
So, Jim Jarmusch started filmmaking and being in the independent circuit and doing Sundance and all that stuff before Tarantino. You know, he did Stranger Than Paradise. That was the one I was trying to remember. He had done Stranger Than Paradise. He had done all these other movies. And then Dead Man, I believe 1995, was like the year after Pulp Fiction. So I felt like there was a little Tarantino kind of thing. It wasn't his style, but there was a little bit of his humor too. Like I even said, there's a point where a guy shot and just missed or whatever, you know, and I was like, oh my god, that's like the scene,
yeah.
You know, except it wasn't shoot, you know, and all of a sudden they missed it and made Samuel L. Jackson go on a freaking holy mission, but you know, walk the earth, but you know.
Yeah, no, there's definitely, you know, they were definitely both storytellers who are trying to tell their story in a way that was different than what has traditionally been done, and I mean, I appreciate that. I really like it, and I like the fact that it was told in such a way that it subverts the standard Western genre, and it's not like any other kind of Western that you're going to see. At the same time, you know, it's beautifully shot. You know, he purposely went for black and white, and
he was even offered more money
to do
color that could have actually made the movie easier to make, but he stuck with his guns. He said, I want to make this movie in black and white because I have a purpose for it, you know.
And it helped make it look mythical. It really did, you know, because rather than the colors, you're depending more on shadow and tone, and you get a lot more depth of the image because of that than you do with the color, because colors, especially these days, it tends to drown out the image because it's so vibrant, you know. So maybe if he had done super muted tones in the color, you could have done it, but I think black and white was the way to go.
I think so too. I liked it. I mean, I didn't mind it. I was just wondering when they have the power to make it. You know, I mean, was it like an artistic standpoint, or was it because he really likes the color of black and white?
They really looked like the old time silver halide pictures that Ansel Adams would have made, you know, back in the early 20th century, late 1930th, 20th century. That just looked really, really cool.
I love how you were like, this is no John Ford film. Throughout like, the whole movie, you were like, this isn't a John Ford Western.
Well, and because, you know, originally I was thinking about doing my Darling Clementine.
Which we will.
Probably my favorite John Ford movie, and I'm not really a big John Ford fan. That movie kind of subverts his own style that he does, which is why I like it. But it's very different than this. It's still a lot more traditional, and this is an a-traditional kind of Western.
And from what we got from the Q&A, Jim Jarmusch said that John Ford had done a lot of movies where they depicted the Native Americans badly and everything, and he had to apologize by making something else.
Mainly because they had an idea of how they wanted to utilize Native Americans, and they didn't bother.
A lot of it is whitewashing.
Yeah, a lot of it's whitewashing. A lot of it is they just didn't bother or care to bother about getting details right. About they're just natives, they're just Indians, and they don't go into any kind of, you know, depth as to who these folks are, what their traditions are, what their culture's like. They didn't care. To them, they were all the same. Whereas in this case, you know, Jim Jarmusch went out of his way to make sure that he got First Peoples involved with the production itself. So all the detail that you're seeing, the language that's being spoken, the costumes, the village, the Native American village that was there, the authentic village with all the totems and everything, it was just amazing. You're not going to see that anywhere else, and it's because they brought all of those people involved and helped advise them. Well, this is traditionally how it's done. So they paid attention, and you know, people. I mean, Hollywood should take advantage of that. I mean, they're the ones who have the money, rather than just sort of building on or going with stuff that's already been done. Spend some of that money and go hire some Native Americans and let them tell you, this is how the cultures were. This is how my culture was. And again, not every tribe is going to represent every other tribe. So, you know, do a little bit more research. Don't be lazy. Don't just assume things, and don't just, you know, whitewash cultures and just, you know, these are Indians and that's it. You know,
right.
You got to bring a lot more depth to them. You can't do that anymore, you know. But I thought it was really, really well done. And then the other thing that I love is the cast. The cast is just amazing. I mean, you start off with Johnny Depp, and then you got Robert Mitchum towards the end of his career, and he did a very good job making this crotchety, crazy old rich guy.
We gotta explain, like, there's a great scene in the beginning of the movie where Johnny Depp is supposedly got this letter to be an accountant, and he's coming from Cleveland after his parents' funeral to go to Machine. Was it Wyoming or what?
Something like that, yeah.
So Machine, Wyoming or something. So he's going to Machine, which is the end of the line for the
Crispin Glover says.
You know, and Crispin Glover's there in blackface or something.
Well, he was an engineer, so he's got the soot from the coal.
I don't know. It looked pretty bad. Like, I was like, what is going on here?
It's definitely not blackface. He's the coal. He shovels the coal into the fire. That's why he's covered in it. Because he had gloves.
I know. He looked bad though to me. I don't know. But he was funny, you know, in it, and he was telling him.
I can't see Crispin Glover without that clowny clown song in my head. It's just.
What?
Yeah, he did that clowny song. It doesn't matter.
I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, I can't see him without thinking of Back to the Future. You know, that's the only thing I ever really. I know he did other stuff, you know, and everything. But
he's a bit of a wackadoodle too.
Or doing the dance from Friday the 13th Part 4. Anyway, he, you know, he's a bit of a wackadoodle, and so he had a character that's a little bit of a wackadoodle, and so anyway, he goes to deal with this place. I don't know what it is, but they were looking for an accountant. And so he was like, I want to talk to Mr. Dickinson, because they had told him
Iron Metalworks.
Yeah, they told him that apparently he couldn't be, that they already got a new accountant.
Because it took him 2 months to, you know, settle his family stuff, get on a train, come all the way out there.
I mean, I get it when, you know, he's like all mad, like I did everything. I gave up all my stuff to come here, and after my parents' funeral, I'm like, well, that's kind of your fault, buddy.
Nitpicky, I would have written a letter saying I'm going to be delayed, but you know, that's okay. I get it.
Yeah. So he was like, I want to talk to Mr. Dickinson, and they all laughed at
John
him.
Hurt's there. He's like kind of like the pit boss, and he laughs. Oh, sure, go ahead, have fun,
yeah, enjoy. And so he walks. He's like, I will. You know, and he walks in and shuts the door, and he looks around. He can't find Mr. Dickinson, and Mr. Dickinson's somewhere in the.
Meanwhile, there's like a safe with a bunch of money just like sitting on the floor, and there's this big giant bear in the corner.
And there's like a lit cigar,
right,
and still smoking and everything. So he's just like,
can't find him.
Where is he? And then he shows up, and he's like with a gun to him, you know, saying,
pointing a rifle at him.
Yeah, pointing a rifle at him, saying, what are you doing in here? You know, right? Get out of here, basically. You know, leave it up.
And he won't let him explain his case.
Yeah, he tries to, but he said, you know, you're going to be explaining it in a casket, basically. And he was like, all right, fine. Pushing up daisies. And he goes, all right, fine. And he leaves. So that was Robert Mitchum, where I did not even recognize him. I had to ask Paul who that was. He was like, oh, that's Robert Mitchum. I'm like, what?
He's got long gray hair. And
we did Night of the Hunter, and he looked so different in that, you know. He's, but wonderful casting job there at the sort of end of his career. And then he goes on his merry way, goes to a bar, a tavern, I guess, or whatever, gets some bottle of booze because there's nothing else for him to do.
He's got nowhere to go.
And he has nowhere to go. I was even asking Paul, and Paul kept telling me to pointing at the movie, just keep watching. But I was like saying, like, what's he gonna do for like a place to live? You know, now that he's took all his stuff to move down here. Like, what was he planning? Like, he really put no thought into this whatsoever. He might as well have stayed in Cleveland.
Right.
If he had stayed in Cleveland, he wouldn't be a dead man.
There'd be no movie.
You know, there'd be no movie too. So anyway, he ends up meeting this woman. Gorgeous woman.
Oh, beautiful girl. Was selling paper flowers that she made herself, and this jerk just like calls her a whore and throws her in the mud.
Doesn't call her a whore. Said he used to like her when she was a whore. Meaning she was a whore at one point, which made more sense in a few minutes when we're going to explain some stuff that happens.
Throws her in the mud, basically.
Throws her in the mud.
So he helps take her out
and bring her to her place, and then they end up liking each other.
Goes to another.
One thing leads to another, and they bang. But we don't see the banging, which is whatever.
But a different kind of banging happens because all of a sudden, after the next scene, boom, here comes Gabriel Byrne, who apparently used to be involved with this girl and
fiance.
Yeah, fiance, and left. And I guess
they broke up. They broke up because he said something to the effect of like, I guess I should be leaving because we're not together anyway, or something like that. You know, he was about to leave, and then he decides to shoot the guy who's, you know,
right.
So, and they said that they had stopped doing that, and I was wondering if some of that was her not being a whore anymore, and I wonder if like he thought that guy was a John.
Probably.
You know.
Probably.
And he was, and Johnny Depp the whole time was trying to cover his face.
Like, I'm not here.
I'm not here.
Don't mind me.
I'm just listening to you guys have this like little
awkward
moment. And so he is like, I got you a present. And
he's just like, whatever.
Like, yeah, whatever.
Dump it.
Yeah.
So, and then he pulls out his gun to shoot, and then she's like, no, don't. And he fires anyway, and the bullet hits her.
But it goes through her.
Yeah, kills her, goes through her, and hits Johnny Depp. And then he had already found her gun under the pillow, and he grabs the gun, and he like fires twice and misses him. And Gabriel Byrne's just kind of like there.
Staring there.
Yeah, he's just standing there because
once again another Tarantino type moment.
Yeah. And then the third time he fires, hits him right in the neck.
Yep.
And then kills him.
And so he doesn't know what to do except
now he's in a world of shit.
Yeah, he can't go to like the sheriff and say whatever.
Oh, he panics. He full time panics.
And then steals the guy's horse and
he grabs his shit, jumps out the window, falls in a massive mud puddle, and then takes the guy's horse, and now he's on the run.
He's on the run.
Well, as it turns out, Gabriel Byrne's character is actually the son of Dickinson, the big man on town. So he's hired these 3 rapscallions to come and find him. And we're talking Lance Henriksen, right? We're talking
Michael Wincott.
Michael Wincott. If you guys have seen the Crow, you know who exactly that is. He was the main bad guy, and he was so wonderful in that. And then the other guy was Eugene Bird.
And Eugene Bird's been like, you know, is a African American who been in a bunch of different movies and stuff, and he's young, like, because he was 90. That was 95, and I seen him in like early 2000s, and he looked young. Mm-hmm. So that dude, good for you. Are you a vampire or something? Because you definitely have kept your looks going like that.
So he sends these 3 after to kill or bring back Johnny Depp's character. And what they don't know is that he's also spread the word to everyone, so that everybody in the whole territory is now going to be hunting, his character.
Yeah, which really kind of pisses off the 3 guys that he has hired, because like that's not fair to them. He hired them before he decided to just go, tell everybody about this. Like, whoever.
Now they have competition.
And that's what they get all mad about. Like, now all of a sudden anybody can go and kill this person. He gives a bunch of different ideas of who could kill him, and I'm like, he could have just said anybody. He didn't have to, keep going. But it's kind of funny that he.
So meanwhile, Johnny Depp is on the lam, and he pretty much falls off his horse because he's been shot and he's losing blood, and he wakes up, and there is Gary Farmer bending over him, in full Native American dress. Of course, he's freaked out, and he's got his dagger. And he's like digging into the wound, trying to get the bullet out. And he's like, sorry, buddy, stupid white guy. You got a piece of white man's metal in you. And if I dig too much, it's going to go in your heart and release your inner spirit. And that's it. Yep. And he's like, barely hanging on. So basically, he just kind of takes him in and helps him out. And
just does whatever he can to
sort of befriends him.
Yeah.
And they have this very interesting, strange relationship that develops into a friendship along the way. And it's
almost like a brothership.
Right. And meanwhile, everybody else is chasing them, and that's kind of how it is.
Throughout the whole movie. Except for the ending. And then
he changes and stops being this sort of ridiculous clown from Cleveland, because somewhere along the way, Johnny Depp's character just is like, fuck it, I don't care anymore. And he just starts killing people.
I would have loved, because the whole time throughout the whole movie, everybody's asking him if he has tobacco on him and everything. And his line is, I don't smoke, so why would I have tobacco on me? But it would be hilarious if at the end of the movie, he's just like, like, fuck it.
Because he ends up getting shot a few more times. So by the time the journey goes from me fleeing to me going to my final resting place, because it's just not going to survive this. And his Native American friend, who's decided to call himself Nobody because he's been sort of outcast from the 2 tribes that he's part of, and that's kind of why they find each other. And he understands, this guy's not going to make it. So he goes from helping him to escape to helping him to his final resting place.
Not only that, but he really bonds with him once he finds out that the guy's name is William Blake.
William Blake.
And he's and I know that.
This must be a white person lie. It's like, no, I'm William Blake. And of course, he doesn't quite understand what he's talking about.
And he talks about the poetry, and he's like, you keep not bringing up your poetry. It's like, I never knew I wrote any. He goes, oh, you're so modest. I'm like,
it was funny.
Just because he has the same name as somebody doesn't mean that's the same person.
And it turns out that Gary Farmer's character, Nobody, and his Native American name means he who talks a lot but means nothing, because they think he's a liar. They think he makes up everything. But it turns out the reason that happened is because he ended up being captured by British soldiers. They take him on a journey all the way back east to different cities, and then he ultimately gets on a ship, and they take him out to England, where he's paraded around, and eventually they put him in a school, and he learns the language and he learns the culture. And then, by the way, he gets a book on William Blake and gets to read William Blake's poetry. And he's like, yes, the words were very powerful and they spoke to me. So that by the time he escapes and comes all the way back and then runs into this crazy white guy who happens to be named William Blake, he's putting two and two together and this must be him. But then he's like, he understands that William Blake is dead, so you must be a dead man. And he is a dead man, he just doesn't quite know it yet.
So there's double meanings, or triple meanings almost.
Triple meanings.
And I like that because, like, yeah, it's talking about him already being a dead man because he's got the bullet in him. He can't get it out. He's pretty much dying right then. And
he gets a few more of them.
And he gets a few more planted into him. And then on top of that, he's a dead man because they think he's William Blake, and he's a dead man because, like, everybody's out there to kill him anyway. So there's no way out of this.
Socially, he's dead. He's lost his parents. He has no family. He has no friends. He's sold everything he has just to get onto this trip to get this job that, as when he finally arrives, there is no job. There's nothing for him. And the only person that helped him gets killed, and that was the girl, the flower girl. And the only other person that's left is this wandering nobody named Nobody, whom is outcast amongst everybody. And basically, he tries helping him initially, but then he realizes, you are a dead man. I'm just going to help you go to your next, station.
Yeah, station of life,
and
I guess, or death.
Meanwhile, Lance Henriksen, who has probably the most rascalionest character ever. Not only is he a bounty hunter, but we get to find out that he murdered his parents, had sex with them, and then ate them.
No. First of all, you're getting that mixed up a little bit.
Yeah, he
had sex with them first.
Yeah.
Then he killed them, and then he ate them. And so that's what Michael Wincott's character tells Eugene Bird.
Right.
And
we're with a psychopath here.
We're with the psychopath. He did all of these things. The guy's like, that guy did all that? Really? Like, oh. And so us as the audience, we're like, is that really true, or is that, like, made up? Then later we see him eat the people.
Right. He kills both his partners, and you can see that coming. I mean, he kills the first guy. And that was...
Well, he kills Eugene Bird because Eugene Bird told him to fuck off, basically.
Right. Fuck you!
And then he shoots him in the back of
the
head.
And then Michael Wincott cannot help himself. He knows the position he's in, but his character is that he blabs constantly, and he can't help himself. And he's just blabbing and blabbing and blabbing, and you were like, yeah, you weren't surprised when he finally got killed, just because you knew he had enough of it.
I know. Well, not only that, like, I knew when there was something weird, like, feeling... when they're walking together and what's his name's just yapping, and then you see sort of them get out of frame. And I was like, oh shit, it's coming, isn't it?
Right.
Gunshots. And then all of a sudden I was like, I knew it.
They were interesting characters. And then in the middle of all this, they run into these three other weird, interesting characters.
Iggy Pop,
Billy Bob Thornton, and who was the other guy? Atkins?
No. It was something with a J, I think.
I forget.
Yeah, I forget too. But
there
we were like, whoa, wait.
They're rapscallions who are wearing like weird clothing because I guess they went and killed some other people. Iggy Pop's in women's clothing. And they are, he just, Johnny Depp sort of walks right up to them.
Before then, they see him like on the ridge, and they look down at him, and nobody says basically go talk to them.
Nobody will observe.
Yeah, exactly. So he's like, all right, what do I thinking? What do I say to these guys? And he's like, just go, whatever, just figure it out. So he goes down there and starts trying to chat with them, and they're pointing their guns at him and everything. And then they start acting all weird, like
very weird.
Like, oh, look at your clothes. Ooh, I like your clothes. Ooh, look at your hair. Your hair's all soft. How do you get it all soft? Mine's all scraggly.
It was like, so funny.
Billy Bob Thornton just so...
Because clearly these guys are going to have their way with him. It's just they're just being very strange about it. They end up fighting and killing each other.
Right, because... Funny. At first, one guy wants to kill him already, and he's like, no, you killed the last one. Blah, blah, blah.
It's mine.
This is mine. And they can become like kids, like children, bickering at each other. And this is your favorite kind of bickering, because generally you don't like bickering.
Hysterical.
But it was funny. And then the guy takes out a what is it? Takes out his gun and says, "I'm gonna shoot you." I'm like, "Oh yeah, you're not gonna shoot me."
Oh yeah, you're gonna shoot me.
Go ahead, and he goes, he shoots his leg, his foot, or whatever it is. He's like, "Ow,
you shot me. This really hurts. I'm gonna have to kill somebody."
So meanwhile, they don't realize like nobody has kind of snuck around.
And it's funny because just before he gets killed, he's like, "I guess nobody's gonna have him," and then he goes, cuts his throat, and it's nobody who does it.
Nope, nobody kills him. Kills that Billy Bob Thornton, and then they kill all the other ones, and so I was just like, damn,
it was so funny. It was so weird.
I know it was your favorite scene, I think.
It is. It is my favorite scene.
It was just so out there.
It's weird. Not a scene that you're ever going to see in a standard Western. That's
not in a Western. Maybe in some other thing, like maybe in a horror movie, or whatever, but not in a Western. That's just really random. But that was funny. It was weird. It was almost like a journey that you were going on, like this adventure with him,
right? And
you were following a dead man into his journey of whatever, and the stuff that's going on. So, meanwhile, the dead man, William Blake, is finding his wanted posters, and at first it was like $500, and he was pissed because he was like, they're getting these all wrong because they don't. Well, of course
I didn't kill the one. I only killed.
Yeah, I only killed one person. I didn't kill the girls. They killed the person I killed the girl. Like, yeah, blah blah. So they end up going around and
because they're leaving a trail of bodies.
Kind of leave. Well, sort. Yeah, they left those three, and then
the two lawmen.
Well, we don't get to that yet because he ended up. Was it nobody wanted to do peyote, and
of course he does.
End up going on his own like little journey. He starts
Vision
quest, and he looks at William Blake and he sees a skull,
and that's when I think it changes from me helping you get away to me helping you go to where you need to be, which is your burial.
But he does leave him for a little while, and which was weird. Like, I wasn't expecting him to just go, so long. I even asked you because he got on his horse, and I was like, he's not going to leave him, is he? Yep. He just takes the fuck off and just, like, leaves poor Johnny Depp just laying there. And the whole time, like, Johnny Depp's like, I'm hungry. I need food. And he's like, oh, you can't eat it if you're going to want to go on your journey. You need to be fast for the gods. Or whatever.
It's almost as if he tries to avoid his fate, but his fate catches up with him. And I guess he finally accepts it. This is what I have to do.
So when he sees nobody is gone, he's like took off the next morning. His whole demeanor, his whole attitude, because he also took his glasses. Right. Like, he is not the same person he was when he started.
Definitely.
That's when things change for him. That was his defining moment.
All his fucks are gone at this point.
He has no care left in the world for anything. Like, if he's going to die, he's going to die, but it's going to be on his terms.
And so that's when the two lawmen show up because they've been tracking him like everybody else has. And it's so funny. He just kind of walks down out of the brush down the hill. And they're like, are you William Blake? And he's like, why, yes, I am. Have you read my poetry? And he shoots the one guy. And that guy dies, and his gun goes off and accidentally kills the other guy. It was just funny.
Which, once again, is another thing. Like, he did not kill the other guy. The other guy did. So, I mean, but at this point, he just doesn't care. He just wants, he got more weapons and ammunition, whatever. And he's going to continue to go. So, finally, he finally catches up to nobody later. It took a little bit of time, but he was
having a little fun.
Yeah, I thought there were animals fucking or something, or somebody fucking an animal.
Yeah, well, because you couldn't
see where
they had that big giant bear rug
on it. Yeah, and so it looked like a bear, and like the sounds that they were making was just not normal sounding. And then so I was like, "What the hell is going on?" And then the guy gets up and starts running at William Blake. So William Blake tries to shoot him and misses, or doesn't miss, but the gun doesn't go off.
Right.
And out of bullets or whatever. And it turns out to be nobody.
And he's like, oh, William Blake. And he gives him a hug.
And then the girl is all pissed.
She's ticked off. She did not like this.
Because she did not get off at all. So.
Not only is her fun interrupted, but it's interrupted by this stupid white man. And it's funny because they keep calling him stupid white man for quite a while until he found out his name was William Blake. It was cute.
Even then, after that, I think he still called him a stupid white man.
Yeah.
So he ends up. What is it? So he was like, yeah, I'll talk to her. Everything will be fine. Don't worry. And so the next morning he wakes up and nobody tells him basically, all right, let's go on our journey. We got a couple more things to do or whatever. And one of the things they got to do is get a canoe.
From Alfred Molina.
Which we knew, we could tell who he was, but we did not.
He just looks so young.
Yeah, he looks so young and he looks so different. Kind of remind me of another Gabriel Byrne. Like, I thought, did Gabriel Byrne do two roles, So he comes in there and says, I like or like ammunition and whatnot. And then, nobody walks in and the guy wants tobacco, but he doesn't want to sell him tobacco. He doesn't want to sell him anything because, he's the devil in his eyes or whatever. And so, William's like, hey, can I get some tobacco? He was like, well, I might have some in my...
Maybe for you.
Which, of course, he's just going to give it to him.
Right.
Because, he doesn't want it. But
he's just another guy that Johnny
kind of
Depp
gets
guy
in the
kills.
way.
William Blake kills him.
William Blake, he didn't recognize William Blake at first. Then he recognized him. I think he puts the hat on and recognizes him. He goes, oh my God, you're William Blake.
Which is, if you're dumb enough to say that, you kind of deserve getting shot.
I know. And he goes, you're William Blake. I mean, right? Because, if you noticed who the person was, just shoot him.
Or just don't say anything and wait till his back's turned on you and then do it or something.
Yeah.
Protect yourself.
Well, I think he was also maybe worried that this guy's already murdered a bunch of people. He might murder him too. As long as he tried to keep it as nice as possible, then he might not do it. I don't know.
I mean, it's the Old West. Everybody was murdering everybody. Everyone was murdering the fuck out of everyone. It's just nuts. Lawless.
And then, of course, they get into a little scuffle, and Alfred Molina gets killed, and then they take the tobacco
and the boat
and the boat and some fire ammunition.
Meanwhile, some other guy just at a random comes out of nowhere and shoots William Blake again
in the back.
Right.
And so then he just turns around and just shoots him. And in the beginning, remember, we said, when that guy shot him in the neck, he didn't he was not a good shot. After this, I guess he just all of a sudden he learned how to shoot or something. Basically,
it was so funny.
Better.
Then nobody says, "I see you've collected some more white men's metal in you." He's like, "Yeah, I feel like I'm being a magnet and I'm attracting it."
Yeah.
It was just so funny.
Pretty much.
Matter of fact, the way he said it.
So they get into a canoe and
he's bleeding badly at this point.
Yeah, get into a canoe and they travel over to an area where...
Because he can't even sit up at this point. He's laying back. His hand is in the water and there's blood coming out of the hand. It's not nasty, looking good.
Yeah. So they go into this Native American tribes area and...
village. And it's not like a village you're going to see anywhere else because they bothered to research it. And it looked really cool with all the totems and all the structures and all the walls.
I love the totems. Those are my favorite. I absolutely myself love totems, so I when I used to go to Jamestown for visiting and everything, they'd have some totems up there. I'd be like, oh my God, so cool! Touching them.
My favorite was when he goes to talk to the one of the three chiefs there, the one he says that can build the sea canoe for your voyage back to where you come from. And it's the beak of this very large, I presume it's a seabird or an eagle or something. And the way that it's made, in order to go in there, it has to open up, and parts of it all open up, and they all go in there, and then it all closes behind them. It was just really neat and ornate, and it's the kind of thing you don't see associated with Native American tribes. You never see that anywhere. And like I said, they bothered to do the research, which was great. And so they pretty much know what's going on. I mean, they know they know a dead white man, when they see one. So they're helping them because
they're helping them go to the other side, yeah. And how, basically how it ends is we're still we also see what's his name, the Lance Henriksen's character Cole, is chasing.
Finally catches up with him.
Finally catches up and is catching and going there, and so we see all of his stuff on top of like wreaths and other things on
tobacco.
Top of tobacco.
He's basically making him a burial at sea,
right?
And pushes the
and
boat
he even
out.
says to him like, "I found some tobacco." He's like, "That's for you, dead man.
It's for your journey."
And so he sends him off in the canoe,
and he's crying because he's a friend, and that was a touching moment.
It was, and then Lance Henriksen shows up and shoots at Johnny Depp, but it doesn't even matter anymore.
No.
I mean, do you think that he thought that Johnny Depp was escaping?
Yeah.
I
don't think he cared.
Yeah.
He was the Terminator at that point, which is fun, you know.
Which is funny because he was in the movie The Terminator, the first one, I believe. No, maybe he wasn't. I don't know. I thought he was, but anyway, no, that's Terminator 2.
I know.
So anyway, moving on. So Lance Henriksen shoots the other guy at the same time.
Yeah, he and nobody shoot each other. They
shoot each other and they both drop dead. And
we assume.
I guess it would have been nice to see nobody get up.
Right.
You know, and live,
and at this point, you know, Johnny Depp's character William Blake is in the boat and he barely has any energy alive, and he's just floating off.
It also kind of works with the first opening scroll that says something about the quote is something about never hang out with a dead man, you know, or whatever, you know, like it's
what they were all doing.
And they're all doing is hanging out with dead man.
And then the final shot, which I love, it's a beautiful, beautiful shot, beautiful composition where the boat is just kind of out there amongst the waves, and you're seeing this dramatic skyline with sunbeams pouring through the clouds in various places, and it reminded me of the end of Excalibur when Arthur's taken away by the three Norms, or the three Fates in that boat, and it just looked gorgeous. It's a very, very similar image, and I mean his grave's been dug a long time ago, so it's just a matter of him going into it at this point. So it was a really well done movie.
Yeah,
loved it.
It was very well done.
Oddly enough, there are some people who have complained about the music because they felt that it was a little overwhelming. It was done by Neil Young. I thought it was fabulous. I loved it.
I thought it was great. I mean, I had no problem with it.
It was very, very postmodern. It's not like kind of country western, which I think
people complain about everything these days. You know, like what
I
are
really
they not
enjoyed
complaining about?
Yeah. Well, I guess some people thought it wasn't period specific, but that's kind of the point, is that it's
this
not
movie wasn't
doing that.
Period specific
right
at all,
it was
really.
Subverting all of those norms. That was the point.
I mean, there was no William Blake. Like, this isn't a biography or anything.
Right.
This is his telling of the movie, and you know once again it goes back to Tarantino for his newer stuff or whatever did a lot of rewriting history and stuff like that, and this is sort of a version of that, except it's not a true story, or wasn't. Right. It wouldn't have been a true story. There was no actual William Blake who wasn't the other William. You know, like that wasn't a real thing.
And I love how Jarmusch says in his Q&A that they specifically try to avoid the standard tropes in most westerns where, you know, you think of Dances with Wolves where you're seeing a lot of these great sprawling vistas of the Old West. He said we would try to shoot the opposite of that and look for the smaller things that were interesting, but, you know, were not these big, huge, grand vistas. You do see a little bit of that, but for the most part, it felt a lot more, intimate because of that.
I kind of do like the big things like that because, you know, we went across the country or whatever. We got to see some amazing sights, you know, when we got into like Arizona and places like that. There were some really cool looking fields and cactuses, you know, and other things that I personally had never seen before, you know, in real life.
Right.
You know, I had only seen them in the movies. So to actually see a lot of these things in the movies is sometimes to me really cool because then later I can, you know, maybe see them in real life, you know, or whatever. I love the desert, and I love that they're in the woods and As I said, there was one shot with a bunch of the trees that reminded me like Miller's Crossing and stuff.
Beautiful.
Just beautiful shots and well done, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it really looked great.
Well, for Criterion, it's great. It comes with all kinds of stuff. It comes with the commentary. It comes with a lot of Q&A stuff. A lot of extras in here. So definitely go and check it out. I can't recommend it high enough. It's a really good film.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't seen it, then we highly recommend you do. But understand, we did just tell almost every scene that was like important in this movie.
Still want to see it though.
Yeah, you still want to see it. It's really well done and really well made. I absolutely loved it. A lot of Jim Jarmusch's movies are on Criterion. Stranger Than Paradise, Dead Man, ton of these things. So I love that. I love that he is a director who gets that sort of acknowledgement. Ghost Dog. Oh, I love Ghost Dog.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
Yeah. So many good ones. I think he's a really well, done director. And one thing we have to mention is that Alan Arkish wrote the Q&A.
Yeah.
So we had just reviewed Rock and Roll High School. Paul picked it for Patreon only. And Alan Arkish, director of Rock and Roll High School, got to ask a question to...
it was serendipity right there.
Yeah, so we were supposed... I guess... Because you said you were like thinking of doing the other one, and then you chose this one. And I think you chose this one like it was supposed to be, meant to be. By the way, this is the last episode of the season. So, kind of a good way to go out.
There'll be more.
There'll be... Oh, yeah. We'll be back in March for brand new episodes and stuff. And I've got 1 million movies. He's got probably 10 more, that he can do and stuff. And we love that. And then he'll get more throughout the... was it the summer, the next sales and stuff like that. By the way, so the sales are over for Criterion for Barnes and Noble. They'll be back in July unless they decide to do four of them a year or something one day. But right now, 2 I guess is enough. July and November, so it's more significant. Plus, there's the flash sales that they have online. There's just so much going on.
Well,
with
if you see one, grab Dead Man. I think you'll enjoy it.
I think I'm going to be picking it up at some point through like eBay or whatever, because I like to get all the movies that we do for Criterion, like Lady Snowblood and all those, Ghost World, all those stuff, and Local Hero, was your favorite movie, but I was so excited to own that because that looks beautiful. This movie looked beautiful on Blu-ray, so definitely worth checking out if you haven't yet. So
there you go.
Until then, everybody, hope you guys enjoyed this, and
we'll see you on the flip side.
See you next year. Bye.
Bye. The monkey's holding the Blu-ray.
Hey. Oh, hold on one second. One teeny tiny little issue. Okay. Wait. Table. I can't. Either way, I can't get it. I can't do that. The table irks me a little bit more than that does. All right, that's good. Look at. Oh shit! I still get the table, but.
You're recording still. It's out.
It's out.
Jack Hunter's a cunt.
We're not putting that in there.